Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today at the Fight for Local Pizza webinar. I'm your host, Brian Hernandez, and today I'm going to be moderating the presentation. We have two speakers with us. First is going to be Steve Green, publisher of PMQ Pizza Magazine, based in Oxford, Mississippi. And the second is going to be Ilir Sela, founder and CEO of Slice, based in New York City. Now we're going to let Steve and Ilir give their presentations first, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end for audience questions. You can submit questions at any point during the presentation. Just find the questions section to the right-hand side of your screen and submit. We'll do our best to answer everyone's questions. But right now, Steve's going to get us started by sharing what's happening in the pizza industry today. So, Steve Green, I'd like to say welcome and take it away.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that. I'm Steve Green, your publisher. Thank you for reading PMQ. We appreciate that. We go to the 40,000 owners of the 70,000 pizzerias. And I started PMQ in 1997. Before that, I started in the pizza industry as a Domino's pizza manager, driver, franchisee. In 1982, marketing director, and ended up having franchises in New York, California, and Mississippi. After I started PMQ Magazine, immediately I started tracking the industry, and in 2000 we had our first Pizza Power report. The industry has been fascinating to follow over the last 20 years. 10 years ago, I had the pleasure of running into a man named Ilir Sela from Staten Island at the time, and I visited him and learned about his mypizza.com, which has since become Slice, and that's the person you're going to hear from here in a minute. Great guy. He had all the passion in the 10 years ago, and he always knew he was going to go somewhere. And I didn't quite realize that he would end up with 10,000 independent pizza operations in his network. But congratulations, Ilir. And it's good for the industry that you were able to do that. And I hope today, what I'd like to do would be to share with you a little history, some trends, and some insights so that we can empower independents to reclaim some of their market share. And so it begins by just looking at the world market. The world market is huge. It's $135 billion, and it's been growing steadily. And some parts of it are growing very rapidly, like China and Asia. Some of them are mature and stable, like the U.S. We have a 12% growth over 5 years, which is plenty good. Europe is another strong area with stable growth. The important thing, though, in the U.S. that we're concerned about is that of the $45 billion in sales that we produce as an industry, the chains average $577,000 for every unit, whereas the independents average $443,000. That's quite a disparity. The top 4 chains, imagine this, the top 4 chains do 40% of all the business, and the top 50 chains do just about 60% of all the business. That means that the 34,000 remaining independents, small chains, are competing for the 40% that's left over. What we've learned by tracking the industry over the last 5 years, the last 10 years, the last 20 years, is that some people have the right formula for marketing in today's world. And apparently, Domino's has found the path. They have found what I believe are the 5 fingers of digital marketing, and they've employed them. The 5 fingers of digital marketing are online ordering, to start with. You have social media, which supports that. You have video. You have SEM and SEO, and you have loyalty. All 3 of these are so important. I think these digital tools are invaluable and inseparable. And Domino's has figured out how to use them to really do a great job. In fact, to prove that they've done a great job, all you have to do is look at their sales. Right now, Domino's does practically 70% of all their business digitally. Imagine the advantage they have in the competitive marketplace to be able to digitize and manage all that revenue in digital means. The good news is that they've shown us a path, they've shown us a way, they've created the template that we can follow to improve ourselves. If we look 10 years ago, when we did the Pizza Power report, the top 4 chains did 34% of the business. I mentioned that they do 40 now. That's 6% of the market, which the chains have gotten from the independents. The question is, going into the future, who's going to be winning the market share? Will it be the chains or will it be the independents? I believe that it could be the independents. If you decide you want to compete, you have some advantages. I think the future bodes well for the independent. The advantages the independent has is that we have authentic pizza. People want to buy local pizza. People also want convenience, so that's why Domino's is winning the battle right now. But they've shown us the path, and all we have to do is adopt technology, whereas the chains have to create a better pizza. And we all know that local pizza is going to be the better pizza. So what I'd like to do would be to bring in or make the final point that the big chains have the advantage, they have the technology, they have the market share, but independents have the locations. We have many more locations, we're closer to the customer. And the one thing I like to think about any pizza store, that you are in the center of your zone more than anybody else in the world. You're right in the middle of your market. The chains aren't. You are, you're local, and when you have technology, we've got an even playing field. Fortunately, there are some very good vendors in video, in online, in all these digital areas where we can embrace. And Ilir Sela is one of those people, and I hope Ilir is here in the other room. Ilir, are you nearby?
I'm here. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to walk folks through what Slice does, but most importantly, I want to thank you, Steve. I know you mentioned it earlier. We met about 10 years ago. I hosted you at my little tiny office on Staten Island, and I think we went to visit Brothers Pizzeria.
That's right.
Giorgio, and we spent some time there as well. I want to thank you for all the things that you do, obviously, within the pizza industry, and for championing local pizza. And obviously, PMQ is a must-read for any owner. I know our team here really educates our restaurant base, although the vast majority of them know you personally in some cases, but we educate them on the power and the importance of having PMQ as part of their arsenal. So just quickly to walk you through my background, I am third generation in the pizza industry. Here's my uncle in the middle and my grandfather on the right-hand side. Dating back to the early 70s, we had a pizza shop in the family. Most recently, my uncle had another pizza shop in Brooklyn called John Anthony's Pizzeria on 4th Avenue. And I myself am surrounded by pizzeria owners. I'm Albanian in my background, and so there's 30 or 40 family and friends today that own pizza shops. I myself took a tech path. I got a computer science degree. I launched a tech support business that I operated for about 5 to 6 years. And from that, more or less my two worlds collided, and that's when I launched Slice, which, to your point, originally was known as My Pizza, and this was way back in 2010. And then since then, we've really scaled the business and, most importantly, partnered with about 10,000 pizza shops and growing, vast majority independent, and growing nationwide. We have a presence across every single state. We have partner shops in big cities like New York and small towns like Allentown, Pennsylvania, and everything in between. And obviously super passionate about making sure that our partnership is driving growth within each one of these locations. What we do at the forefront, we're basically a technology, marketing, and data platform for pizza shops. Internally, our entire team can repeat this every single minute. We are uniting local pizza. In order for the local segment, to your point, to have an opportunity to win back the category and really start taking market share back away from the big chains, I fundamentally believe that we all need to work together. Now, I understand that there's competition in hyper-competitive markets, potentially like Manhattan or Brooklyn and whatnot. But there's so much opportunity for all of these shops to really become successful. There's a much bigger opportunity to work together and succeed than there is to compete against each other. And so that's been the premise and the foundation of Slice from day one. And we do that again through a technology platform by really launching a number of things on behalf of pizza shops. First and foremost, we empower the shop with a mobile optimized, ordering enabled website. And we publish that across Google, Facebook, Instagram. We've partnered with Google Assistant. So the opportunity to order with a voice platform will be enabled automatically. And then custom photography is part of our solution. So we'll send a photographer to every single shop, make sure we take photos of the incredible, authentic local pizza, because I do agree with you, big chains will never be able to compete on the product. And then we launch a loyalty-focused marketing campaign on behalf of every single shop. And so the biggest takeaway for me is that most small business owners are so focused on acquiring new customers. I think we need to make sure that we first really take care and delight existing customers, loyal customers, and make sure that they have the ability to order conveniently through a technology platform, and to make sure that they have visibility in terms of your entire menu. So as a result, consumers ordering on the Slice platform are actually ordering so much more food. On average, our order values are about $30 compared to $18 for the phone. So these are some of the big, I think, benefits of moving and adopting digital. And again, we do that for restaurants in a full service way from A to Z. On the other side, we bring the benefits that some of the big franchise chains have, which is buying power. Because Domino's goes out and buys boxes and menus, printed menus, and cups and napkins and whatnot on behalf of 50, 300 locations. And so they're using that buying power to their advantage to make more money for each individual franchisee. We obviously don't want to franchise local pizzerias. We believe in authenticity. We believe in championing the hyper-local brands. However, there's no reason why we can't work together to use our power in numbers to buy products together, to make sure that we then get discounts on those products. So we've discounted the price of printed menus, and we just launched pizza boxes as a campaign in the New York market, where we've discounted the prices of a bundle of boxes by 20%. And so these are some of the really critical components over time that we want to drive to local pizzerias in terms of improving profit margins. And then the last part of this is really focusing on the consumer experience. delighting the customer is a critical component. And we handle that, again, in a full service way. Our team stands by 24/7, and we field all customer service calls. All calls coming in terms of where is my pizza, or things like I want to make a change to my order, or an unsatisfied customer, which we believe those are the biggest opportunities to really gain and earn loyal customers. Those really unsatisfied customers, if you can really service them in a great way, in a delightful way, they become loyal to your shop forever. And we do that for you. And then on the restaurant side, we handle customer service and support for each one of our pizza shops 24/7. Obviously, we then package all of this and empower the owner with a dashboard that shows exactly the impact that Slice is making to their business in the form of growth, revenue, and number of orders, the number of customers returning, and what is the average order value for those customers. So these are all data and analytics and tools that would then empower the owner to make decisions moving forward. I think that's critical as well. We know things like if a customer doesn't return within 14 days to order from your shop, the likelihood that they'll come back really declines by about 80%. So Slice automatically lights up an email or a push notification to that customer to ask them to come back to your pizzeria, and we give them a discount to do so. So these are some of the data and components that we leverage in order to improve the local pizzeria's business and drive growth. And obviously the dashboard publishes that for the owner so that we're all on the same page. Ultimately, our mission is obviously to help local pizzerias succeed. As I mentioned, I do believe that the united front will ultimately drive better pricing on the supply side and then greater demand on the consumer side. And by doing all of these things, we feel, and we've proven this out with now hundreds of pizza shops, approaching thousands of shops, where we drive significant volume to their restaurants, resulting in savings and more value for the consumer. One of the biggest takeaways and one of the biggest things that we have to remember is the why. Why is digital important for Domino's or Papa John's? What it does is ultimately it drives efficiency for the business and convenience for the customer. And if you marry those two things together, the end result is value. So where you have local pizzerias potentially partnering with a Grubhub, an Uber Eats, a DoorDash, and paying 20, 25, 35% per order, you have Domino's that hasn't changed their pricing in 12 years. They have not raised their menu prices. In a pizza industry and category where value is critical. And so we believe that we can drive value to both owners and ultimately consumers. And in the long run, if you combine value with quality and convenience, I know for a fact that we will win. And that's what I'm most excited about. That
All right, Ilir.
What Slice does. I'm happy to jump into some questions and obviously chat further.
Perfect. Ilir, Steve, thank you guys so much for all that great information. So I think what we're going to do is while we're waiting for some more questions to pop up in the question field here, we're going to start with a couple of the pre-registered questions that we got when you guys registered. So number one is going to you, Ilir. How does one pick the right platforms to truly reach customers without paying through the nose for sliding pay-to-play performance slope like Grubhub, Amazon, or Uber Eats? I mean, Uber Eats charges 33%, like as you were just saying, and Grubhub 20%. How does one find the right platform for them?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of components to this question. There's two parts to it. One is, as owner, we really need to be honest with ourselves in terms of what we are capable of doing. Even if we think we understand the problem, and many owners do understand exactly what needs to be done, we should be honest with ourselves on whether we have the time to actually go with the program and run this platform. And so a full service solution, I think, is ultimately the best way to do that. You have a lot of SaaS companies, as we call them, which is basically companies that will give you all the tools, but it requires that you do all the work and understand the consumer behaviors, write the emails, know and understand when those emails need to go out, etc. With Slice, you more or less plug in your pizza shop to this superpower, and you put our entire team to work on your behalf. I think that is the big difference in terms of how we do it. The second component is, do you go with a pay for play or, flat fee potentially? And again, I think it's important that incentives are aligned. I don't think there's anything wrong with pay for play, but I do think there's something wrong with an aggregator charging 20 to 30% per order when ultimately their incentives aren't aligned with the individual pizza shop. Their goal isn't to bring customers back to you. Their goal is to get customers through the door through their brand and then lead those customers to the restaurants that pay the highest commissions. And those restaurants could be other pizzerias, but really the vast majority are either Asian cuisine, Mexican food, etc., etc. And ultimately, that's the real problem with aggregators, is that they cannibalize or commoditize the local brands. And, that's the flaw, I believe, in that model. But that's the way I view it. It's all about, I think, full service is one of the most critical components to really adopting digital, and it removes this entire anxiety that owners have in terms of where to start, what to do next, and am I really going to follow through with this program 1 month down the line? I may be excited about it for the first 2 weeks, but this requires years of attention and focus and hard work.
All right, great. I did want to remind everybody that you can actually ask your questions. If you go to the right side of your screen on your dashboard, there'll be a segment that says questions. You can type in your questions there that Steve and Ilir will actually get to. I did have one that I want to actually address to both of you, but I want to ask Steve this one first. How does not responding to Google reviews or good or bad reviews affect your business? Should you respond to the good ones, respond to the bad ones? I mean, how does inactivity on response actually affect your business? What would you think from a publishing standpoint? And then Ilir as well, your opinion on that?
Well, I think you have to address them. That's from Google themselves. Well, of course they say that, but that's their advice. Is you have to respond. So I guess it's a PR thing. Fortunately, I'm not managing pizza stores anymore, so I haven't had to solve that problem. Ilir, how would you? What do you do? What do you recommend?
Yeah, so I actually am very close to this topic because we have a whole team that focuses on a Google relationship and we have a partnership. There's a couple of components here. One is Google loves activity. So your Google My Business and these things, activity around these areas, reviews, ratings, and responding to customer requests. Google views that as activity and views you as an owner, as an active owner. We do this on behalf of thousands of shops where we manage this completely free of charge. And activity means, for Google, it means that you are most likely a quality owner in a quality pizza shop, and they usually rank you higher as a result. So I think that's important to know. The second part is just understanding that, these are your customers. This is your livelihood. And I love the positive reviews. I think that's important. But more than anything, I love the negative reviews because those are consumers that are very passionate about your business, and it just so happened that they had a poor experience. There's an opportunity to really gain a customer for life. The biggest problem is when customers leave no reviews. Now that's an issue. You never want customers who say nothing because that means they're not passionate about your business. So whether it's positive or negative reviews, absolutely either take the time to respond or again, Slice in a full service way, as I mentioned earlier, we do this on behalf of all the pizza shops that we work with, at least the ones that have given us the opportunity to manage that presence.
All right, that great answers right there. People need to be taking that to heart. There's a question here that's actually probably broken down better into two questions. Is it common for people to kind of sign up with multiple online ordering companies, or should they just pick one and stick with it? Is it better to use a couple to get your name out there, or just be loyal to one? How does that work usually for people?
Is that a question for me, or is it more?
Yeah, I'd say yeah, that would be for you. I'm sorry, Ilir.
So I think consistency matters. Now, I do understand the power in a company like Grubhub because they have a very consumer-facing brand, and they do have customers that browse what I call the shopping mall for different stores, and you will get order volume through that channel. The question is, do you do that? And when you do partner with Grubhub, do you then feel strongly that you can unplug those consumers from Grubhub so that they can order from you long term? Because if the only place you're servicing those customers is on a Grubhub or Uber Eats, well, every time you service them, you're losing money. I promise you this. I know the gross sales at the end of the month in terms of a check feels good and it's a lot of money. But if they're sending you $10,000 in sales and you're getting that payment, they're withholding $2,000 to $2,500. And I can ask every owner on this thread or on this webinar, if you're making $10,000 in sales offline, your profit is probably exactly that amount. So you're basically working for them. So unless you feel strongly that you have a plan to unplug consumers from those big platforms, I fundamentally see no reason for any pizza shop to work with an aggregator. The second component, as I mentioned, is consistency, is making sure that consumers get into a flow and in a user experience that they know and love. They don't want change every 2 days. They don't want you to, tell them to order on Grubhub one day from your POS, potentially online ordering solution that is not mobilely optimized the second day, and then slice eventually. So I'm actually very passionate about this. I think it is important that we take the consumer intent in mind and understand what we're going up against. So again, unless you have a very specific plan to pull customers off of Grubhub and order directly from you, every time you service that customer, it is not the customer's fault, but you are losing money. I promise you this.
Okay. We've got one here from Craig Chapman. He wants to know, what do you think is the future for local take and bake mobile assembly pizza locations? So what is that, the take and bake future? You guys deal a lot with that?
Yeah, so I'm assuming this is similar to what a Papa Murphy's franchise location would offer. Is that take and bake? Steve?
I was going to say take and bake. Papa Murphy's is number 6 pizza chain, and according to the survey that we did, take and bake is alive and well as a percentage of pizza sales. It's significant.
Yeah, we don't work with a lot of take and bake shops, but overall consumer trends, and I know I'm not a fan of this word, but millennials is a big segment. Experience is very high up in their core values. They want to enjoy experiences, and it's not about chains and fast food anymore. So for those 2 reasons, I actually am very bullish around take and bake. As an experience, I want to make sure that if you have a take and bake shop, focus on selling and packaging your product as an experience rather than just a pizza that is uncooked yet. It's a family night. Consumers can go and bake this pizza together or maybe create it together. And so those are things that I see as massive trends in the consumer segments.
Great. We have another one here from I guess sunny China, I believe. If you manage manage the Google, My Business, and review side of the business. So basically the Google and the review side. Does that mean that you control the Google facing side of your business? If a restaurant wants to leave Slice, what does that, where does that leave them? I guess they mean, how does that?
Yeah. So when you partner with Slice, you partner with Slice in a full solution way. Google My Business is part of that. It's obviously optional, but we feel we can really empower the local business by having the ability to make an impact across all these channels. When you do leave Slice, absolutely, we then would relinquish the ability to manage your Google My Business listing. But that also includes Facebook and all these other channels that we work with. So something to keep in mind, we have global partnerships with Google and Facebook. So that we did this on behalf of local pizzerias. So that when a pizza shop joins Slice, the ability for a consumer to order through those platforms immediately gets turned on, and it leads with the shop's name. So, a consumer is able to order with Johnny's Pizza in Carolina, and they can do that through Google Assistant with voice, or they can do it directly from Facebook or Instagram. So that's an ability that we empower, but definitely it's the local brand that is at the forefront and center of that experience.
Okay, so now Slice is, from what I understand, it's pizzerias only, correct? It's not like a Grubhub or Uber Eats where it's just everything. So what do you think makes the difference between you and Grubhub, as an example, as far as like understanding the market? You guys only dealing with pizzerias. I mean, what's the benefit of that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One is obviously subject matter expertise. By focusing on the pizza industry, I'm surrounded by owners. They show up to our office. I mentioned Johnny from Johnny's Pizza. He drove from Carolina, North Carolina, to get to our office here and spend some time with the team. Owners surround this business, and the subject matter expertise is second to none. I think the second part of it is we know that the pizzeria industry is very loyalty driven. It's loyalty first. Discovery is the second component, which is the new customer acquisition. A Grubhub and Uber Eats, that is all discovery. That is basically consumers go on those platforms, and if they order from one shop or one pizzeria, their job is to make sure they now educate that consumer on the other 30 restaurants that deliver to them. That is not a loyalty platform. Their job is to keep customers within those platforms and move them around. So for us, our job is to incrementally drive growth and revenue and savings to the pizza segment, one shop at a time, and we do that in a united front. So those are the two biggest takeaways. To summarize it, I think aggregators are very consumer focused, consumer only focused. Slice is a very pizza shop centric opportunity and platform. Our job is to make sure that the restaurants we work with have a much stronger business after they work with us than prior to working with us. And I think it's flipped. It's the opposite for aggregators.
All right. Well, here's a good question for Steve then, since you guys are, as Ilir said, pizza-centric, focused on that. Are there stats about what's kind of the percentage of rise in online orders in the last few years? How has that grown?
It's grown a lot. We just did our pizza industry census report for 2018, and 54% of our readers now have an online ordering option. And when you looked at the number of independents that actually use online ordering, it's 15%. 5% is attributable to all the amount of digital business that independents do, but of those that have it, it's 16%. And so that's pretty good for small guys. We know that some chains, there are individuals that are over 50. So people like Michael LaMarca, with Master Pizza, and there's other people in Boston area that I know of that do that.
Yeah, I think that the big takeaway here, and I think for me, the realization here, I've known this for a while, is the big gap in terms of how many shops actually have online ordering as a feature, and then what percentage of their business is actually going online. There's a big gap there. So if 15% of independents have online ordering as a feature, why is only 5% of their business transacting digitally? I think it speaks to the massive, I think, underserved nature of SaaS companies and POS companies that just give you this solution. It's built for a laptop or a desktop. There's zero mobile or app capability. My home screen, by the way, is a bunch of owners, which is cool. I think just having the tool isn't solving the problem. And having a website with online ordering that works on a computer is not solving the problem. 80% of the traffic comes through the mobile phone. Who's leading consumers through those channels? How are you retargeting them? How are you communicating with them? How are you digitizing your business? And I'm with you, Steve. I think there's pockets of owners that have multiple locations and the capacity to go and hire a small team to solve this for them. And they've also proven out this superpower. But I think we need to be honest, there's the vast majority of the locations are independently owned and operated. We need to make sure that we are more self-aware about what we're doing and how we're really adopting this new way of consumer behavior.
Well, and Ilir, actually, with Facebook has become kind of the quintessential free publicity tool for most independents at this point. So how's the Facebook integration with you guys proven to be a good, and also, maybe is there something that's not so good about integration with Facebook? But I mean, what's the experience there where you guys have integrated with Facebook, and how is it benefiting independents?
Yeah, I think the benefits are clearly there. So on the consumer side, there's zero downside to that integration. So the way it works is, as soon as you as an owner partner with Slice, and we enter your information inside Slice's admin portal, basically our internal system, Google and Facebook see that data, and they immediately turn on a button that says Start Order for that shop's location or places page on Facebook, as well as Instagram, if you have an Instagram profile. So on Instagram, Instagram and Facebook are one company. And so there's insane amount of benefits, incredible benefits on the consumer side. The downside is that for an owner, they Slice their POS ordering solution. They see Slice as another aggregator. And so some owners may potentially push back and say, well, I'd rather consumers call me or order from me directly or not go through Slice. But I think that the challenge there is, and I think this is where also owners need to make a fundamental shift in how they think. Consumers don't care about what's easier for you. They care about what's easier for them. And you're in business for the consumers, for the customers that are ordering food. And so we need to start doing things that are best for them, not necessarily just things that are best for us. Because by doing all the things that are just only better for us, we're going down a losing path, unfortunately. Now, we have to find that happy medium where not only are we doing the things that consumers want, but also then plugging those features into workflow and management software on the restaurant side to make sure that both sides have an easier time managing the business. But there's zero downside on the consumer side. On the owner side, it's all about preference.
All right. Well, Steve, this question is for you. As a Domino's franchisee, you were kind of given a template on how this thing should work. But as an independent, can they get support like this like a franchisee by working with Slice? Do you think that Slice was going to offer that kind of support like you got from Domino's?
I think that when I was a Domino's franchisee, the best part of it was that we had a network of people that we could exchange ideas with. And I think that's what Ilir brings to the table, not only in his overt services to two independents, but he has a network of people. He's got case studies. He's got information to share and things like that. But I think that's really more directed towards you. How would you answer that question, Ilir?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think the biggest, again, going back to our mission, which is uniting local pizza, one of the visions that I have is creating a platform very similar to a Facebook, but basically a platform that is only available to local pizza shop owners that can exchange ideas, best practices. Again, I understand there's competitive components to the industry, but you know, the owner of Johnny's Pizza isn't competing with the owner of Joe's in Manhattan, but they're both each individually doing some things that are awesome, and they're both making some mistakes. How do we bring those people together and then scale that to thousands of owners? I have a vision around an owners retreat where, you know, once a year we all go out to some paradise island and spend a weekend together and make sure that we not only unwind but share ideas and best practices. So these are all part of our vision. Obviously, that's more down the line, but the core component is exactly what you said, Steve, is the ability to work for yourself, but not by yourself, is the best way.
Okay. Excuse me. I did have just a quick reach out from Harrison Singer. He was asking earlier if you'd be able to provide your contact details so that you guys could continue a conversation some other time. We will be doing a follow-up email where we will actually be sending a video of this webinar, but you guys will have all the contact information if somebody wants to reach out to you and get some more information, correct?
Absolutely. That is my favorite thing about Slice is the ability to spend time with owners, communicate. I'm available on a regular basis. My weekends are spent inside pizza shops, mostly around the New York area, but when I travel, most recently was in San Francisco, etc. So that's my natural habitat.
All right. Well, I do have another one. Besides the online ordering service, what else does Slice offer pizzerias as a partner? What's behind the curtain, so to speak?
Yeah, I think the real superpower here is the CRM component. CRM stands for Customer Retention Marketing. The online ordering piece, the technology, that is not the difficult part, although we do a great job at optimizing the experience and the flow. But really, the core component is when a customer does place an order online, what happens then? Why is that important? We have a team of, in total we're 400 people, but our marketing team is 15 or 20 people. They take the lead and they make sure that consumer then, using your hyper-local brand, your pizzeria's brand, that consumer gets emails, push notifications on the app, or a text message, letting them and reminding that customer to come back a week later. And if they don't, we incentivize our coupons that we fund. We'll go out to the customer to make sure that they do come back. Because again, incentives are aligned. So I think the most critical component is the marketing and CRM, customer retention marketing component that allows us to then retarget and bring consumers back to your shop over and over and over again. That is, full stop, the biggest component. Online ordering, the technology part, let's be honest, it's turning into a commodity. Anyone can give you the tool. But what do you do with the tool? Who teaches you? I can give you a fishing rod. Do you know how to fish? That's the biggest comparison I would make.
All right. Well, I think that we've exhausted all the questions that we've received here. We'll continue on looking through registration and stuff like that. But there is one more that I do want to ask you, Ilir, that was posed to us in registration. Where do you see Slice in 5 to 10 years?
That's a great question. Our focus is obviously partnering with as many pizza shops as possible and making an impact on their business. I really do see, what's interesting is 3 or 4 years ago, we had a company offsite and someone asked me a question, how do you define success? And I said, there's a reason why we can't drive Domino's and Papa John's out of business. And I got a lot of laughs out of that. Here we are 3 years later, and when I say it, not as many people laugh. So I'll say this again in 3 years, and I think a lot of people will take it very seriously. So where I see Slices championing pizza and winning this category.
Great.
I wanted to say one thing, Brian.
Yes, sir.
I skipped over in my presentation. I wanted to make the point that Domino's is beatable. Another reason we know that they're beatable is because Dodo Pizza was able to beat them in Russia, where they were #1 for years. Probably for the last 10, 15 years, Domino's has been #1 in Russia. They got displaced by Dodo Pizza, which is another technology company that I think made a better pizza in Russia for Russian taste. But it's all technology. It's about online ordering. It's about all the other steps, the efficiencies that Ilir is talking about, the being more efficient as a company. And they had their eye on Domino's in the U.S. Now they're in the U.S. and who knows what'll happen. They've got 2 stores now in the U.S., but they've got 300 stores in the world, and it takes one tech company to beat another. So it's easier to adopt tech now than it is for Domino's to make a great pizza.
It's easier to adopt it, but it's also important to not ignore tech. I think you have to embrace it. That's where the culture is going. So, Ilir?
And I want to make sure, again, the one thing I'm trying to make sure that we do at Slice is remove that whole anxiety from owners. Owners shouldn't worry about it. We come in, we partner with owners, we literally hold their hand across the entire journey, and there's nothing that they need to do or change about the way they do their business. The only thing that they need to do is really empower us to work on their behalf. So that's a critical component, is removing that anxiety from owners who are hesitant to adopt.
I mean, you have to change with the changing time. So it sounds like you guys are there to help people walk through that, trepidatious kind of just field right there. Don't be scared. We're here to help you. So, I'm sorry. Okay, I got one more question that just popped up here real quick. We'll do this, and then I have one question for both of you that we'll make it real fast. I do appreciate everybody who has actually stuck with us this whole time. We appreciate your participation and your questions. So this is for Ilir. As a pizzeria, if I sign up with Slice and my customers don't use it, will I be charged?
No, there's 0 fee. The only time we get paid is when we drive consumers to place orders. We build websites, publish them across multiple channels, build a marketing tool that we're ready to deploy, do all of this, enter all of your menu items, make menu changes, anytime you have a menu change, and empower you and educate you with some best practices in the region or the territory based on what we know. It's all completely free. The only time pizzerias pay is when we drive an order that is typically on average about $30.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, thank you for all that great information, Steve and Ilir. I want to thank everybody for joining us and sticking around. I do, as a personal, just a personal question, real quick. What's your favorite pizza, Steve? Just not place, just the topping. You had to order one pizza. What would you order?
Sausage and green peppers.
Awesome.
Well, the initials are SG. So, but it happens to be my favorite pizza.
I didn't think about that. That's great. I have BH, so I don't know, banana peppers and something with H. Ilir, what about you, buddy?
I am a classic cheese guy, full stop, all the way. That is the classic cheese pizza when it's made well and done well. Beats any topping you can ever put on a pizza. So classic cheese forever.
New York. It's a great standard test for any pizzeria you go to. Get their cheese and see what that's like. That's what I like to do as well. Well, once again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with a download of this recording and the contact information if you'd like to learn more about Slice. So, Ilir, Steve, thank you guys so much for your time. Audience, everybody who attended, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to find out more about Slice. And hopefully how it can actually help you and your independent pizzerias. So we'll see you guys next time in the PMQ webinar series. But until then, I think we're done.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.